Just like understanding the balance of triangles, we need to understand the cycles of circles. Our individual and personal circle of life can be easily affected by the larger circles around us. We are a story within a story within a story. For instance, you have a personal story worth $5 that has spanned from the alcohol of God to atom of autonomy to encased. That makes you the main character or the CEO of your life while you are alive. You make decisions and choices to live successfully during your lifetime. This is where the triangle of health, happiness, and success comes into play, yet it is related to this first and personal circle. After you have learned all about your personal circle, which can be called your cup of tea, you need to learn about the neighboring circle where your grown-up children, community, nation, or religion exist. Not only you have to learn about your cup of tea and mortal nature, you also have to know and learn all about how to relate with the neighboring circles and their effects on your cup of tea. Understanding the people around you is one thing, but relating with your grown-up family members and community you belong to is another. Like you can vote for the direction you want your belonging community to go, but that is the only power you have. The outcome of your vote is not in your control, so you have to come to terms with your limitations. Especially if you are a controlling individual, you may not like it. So you have to understand that you have no control over many different things or aspects of your mortal life. For instance, you happen to be born into a circle, including your race, gender, nation, and religion. They dictate and show their power to let you know that they are more powerful than you as an individual. They not only have the power to punish or shun you, put you in jail, or even kill you for disobedience in the name of their political control. So you personally will have to use your own politics to live within the boundaries, rules, and laws of the land, overriding your own desires to be free or other demands of your personal circle. So your personal politics is needed to live in the second circle. To me, the biggest trouble is our third circle, where even communities don't have control. So as groups, we try our best to control the uncontrollable, sometimes disputing with each other as communities. We even go to wars because of the frustration stemming from being out of control. Since we want nature to comply with our will, whether we are a group or an individual, we want things to run smoothly. We need not only individuals to comply with the community, we want nature to comply with communities as well. In order to create a balanced and peaceful environment, we all individually and as groups need to evolve further. I see wildfires and the efforts made by communities, yet wind can lead to out-of-control fires or uprising against the governing party in a nation, etc. At individual levels, by accepting mortality and health-related issues, we can set the rhythm to evolve without frustration. You don't win a war against cancer by going to war. You continuously pursue evolution to get better and use more of your brain power. This rhythmic pursuit can help to adopt evolution one level at a time. The third circle I am talking about is where your all-powerful second circle is powerless. This is where nature and God reside. Amongst all these complexities, you have to really know your politics to spend a mortal life with happiness and contentment, because you, as an individual, depend on the oxygen from this circle to even function. Our rights and wrongs change not only as individuals, but also as evolving organisms, meaning we change in the second circle over time. Aside from our religious traditions, customs, rituals, and rules, it is kind of obvious that changes and evolution of our societies are well documented. As children, we learn something we don't agree with. As teenagers, we think that was stupid. And when we become adults, our rights and wrongs exchange places again. In exactly the same way, our belonging groups can change with evolution. Evolution is at the core, foundation, or genes of human beings, with the wisdom to see or envision the future. The sooner we adapt to the coming changes, the better. It is important for the individual to know what is most important in personal mortal life, circle, or teacup. It may be politically promoted to be selfless and sacrificing, but to me, as individuals, the responsibilities of our personal happiness and contentment land on our individual shoulders. Remember, regardless of the circle you are in, it will always come down to your personal happiness and contentment as an individual in your living years. Note, as a social being, we get a great deal of happiness and contentment by being helpful. Now that is a different story, and it depends on you being an honest CEO of your life. If changes happen in your next circle where you don't have control, you have to adjust accordingly to live your mortal life with the top goal of your health, happiness, and being contentment. If you are unhappy because the opposing political party won the election, or you are cleaning up after a natural disaster, remember, it is you who has to adjust to keep going because you are the CEO of your life project. Events, situations, and circumstances are part of a big project. They should be just that. They should not have the power to bring your whole high-rise of your life to a crash, a screeching halt, or break down your belief system. Losing hope because of an event or situation is looking at life with a limited vision. Remember, it is you who is the CEO to decide whether it is a department of a life or a whole life itself. Knowing the wrong is easier if you put yourself in others' shoes rather than demanding others to fit into yours. People change gradually, so the problem is not the change itself, but rather the speed at which individuals adapt to changes. Some don't want to change at all, while others want to change everything instantly. I prefer to look at the journey of humanity, where the reality is that we have already come this far. We have a lot to show. Just look at the people with cell phones in their hands. Our history shows constant changes, and resistance to change has always been constant and a part of our evolution. Yet it has never been able to stop progress. From no religion to religion, from one religion to another, from communism to socialism to democracy and back and forth, yet there is still progress to show. Just look around. The number of moderate believers is growing against the extremists. At the base of all changes, you will always find an individual's imagination, regardless of the size of the change. It always starts from the thoughts of one human individual. Every group is made of human individuals, yet their political agendas are there to nurture or destroy the individual's imagination, which creates new and destroys old reality. If reality is not created, the group will lag behind because of the brain drain. If there were a measuring device to measure the smarts, strength, and ability to live for oneself and help others, I would call it a $5, atom of autonomy or encased. To understand this, imagine you are standing on the bank of a river and you see a log floating in the river that gives you an idea, since you have always wanted to get to the other side, but the river always stopped you. Before jumping in and drowning, you are thinking about the log. Your imagination activates to give you an idea. You think, plan, and then act on your plan. You can gather some branches, weave, and make a raft, and row yourself to the other side. It's not simple, but in a nutshell, this is what it's all about. If this godly wisdom, power, energy, and ability to do everything is measured, metaphorically, it is worth $5 for each individual. If the whole community contributes their $5 to build a boat or even a bridge, everyone in the community can cross the river whenever they want. But here comes the problem. When the community gets involved, things have to run with rules, and the rules should be equally followed by all community members. But with the politics of control, everything changes, and the politics robs the individual of their fiver, so an ordinary individual has to take a back seat. Metaphoric Big Brother takes over to make everyone small and irrelevant. Logically, a single individual is weaker than the big family, community, nation, or religion, depending on whether they get along and work as a unit. One can be very smart and have a lot of resources to hire many helping hands to function at a much higher level. Either way, that smarts still comes from that $5 or an atom of autonomy. Fighting infectious diseases like the COVID and Ebola outbreak, issues with global warming, the spread of the internet, and now advancing AI. Building the space station is best done if humanity comes together with $5 at a time. These days, times have changed. Infections and global warming don't stay within our so-called political boundaries. An example, a human cell is meaningless on its own, but with the right circumstances, it has the power to create a whole and functioning human body with limitless potential. We each have trillions of cells in our bodies. Individually, a cell may be insignificant, but when they work together, the potential is limitless. Internal space has its intricate functions of trillions of cells, which seems chaotic at times, but we have been learning to survive disease. We have been learning about external space as well, regardless of our control over it. This all points towards the biggest circle that holds our oxygen, thus health and death. Trying to control without accepting it creates an even more chaotic situation. The stress of learning our responsibilities points to the need for a belief system. A belief system helps us be at peace with mortality. I still believe we need to do everything in our power to evolve further because we have not hit our potential yet. As human beings, the more we pursue, the more we achieve. Modern technological advancements happen when we think outside of our religious boundaries. Especially when it comes to our medical and genetic breakthroughs, they don't come with the attitude that God will save me, or if I die, I die. So I should just rely on prayers regardless of my lifestyle. Believing and saying the prayers are great, but after we have done our best as human beings. If you are on the other extreme and believe that you are the one doing everything, I got news for you to know that without oxygen, a functioning body, and favorable life circumstances, you are a dead duck. None of them are your doing, so you can't take all the credit because that would not be wise or even comfortable. This clap needs 2 hands or 2 wires of negative and positive to get the job done. Everything is done by both of you together. Create balance to accept your responsibilities as a CEO and believe that you are being helped all along. So you can create some inner peace along the way for your mortal life. Back to the circles. All my knowledge has never been, is not, and will never be about controlling to reach extremes. It is all about creating balance for the individual to live a mortal life with all its difficulties because it is our physical reality. We should understand that most of our mental health and other happiness and contentment-robbing problems start when we want to fit the larger circles into our smaller or in our cup of tea. If we want to control even godly events, sooner or later we will run into a situation where we lose control. Remember, most of our problems start when we feel out of control. When our belief systems teach us about these things by saying that God is doing everything and we as human beings have no control whatsoever. I got a problem with that because to me, that is politically motivated to control the individual by making them feel irrelevant. The other problem is that if you believe God is doing everything, that makes the individual not guilty. So you simply can't have swear or barbaric punishments for the individual. Or at the least, this philosophy should not be attached to God because that creates 2 victims. The individual and God, both, are being politically used. Remember, religious people say they are following God's orders. So if God's work is physically done by human individuals, they simply can't be insignificant. Sure, we as human individuals depend on oxygen to perform the physical work of God. So it is not that humans or God are doing everything separately, it is done with equal efforts. So it is not one or the other, or who is doing more. It is the balance because of the individual's ability to reciprocate regardless of mortality. Just like our cells do their job to keep us alive, physically, we do that for humanity and spiritually for God. If we keep our beliefs limited to believe that God is doing everything, then you have to know how things are being done physically if God is only spiritual. Where and how do you fit your $5? Atom of autonomy and encased. Remember, you brought them from before your birth. You have been told that it is not enough, so you have to put up with our political agendas as well. This not only robs the individual of self-esteem, but it also makes the individual limited, which God had never meant for an atom of autonomy holding entity. We are not a drop in the ocean, rather, we are the ocean in a drop. So any education that works against our evolving nature, limits or holds back the human individual is against God's will, because otherwise, logically, we would not have the $5 that gives us free will and personal sense of justice individually. If you believe that you are limited, you have to look at your education or the data you have been instilled with critically. The spiritual potential you carry within is related to God Almighty, not to your political group. A group makes the individual weak, so he or she can be politically controlled. If you look at our governing systems, some go too far in the dog-eat-dog philosophy, and some try to help the individual to the point that he or she stops seeking his or her potential. Help should be there because I believe if a community wants the individual to follow rules, the individual's basic rights should be met. No one should go hungry. If a hungry individual breaks the rules, it is not the individual's mistake. It is the community's fault. Sure, we need rules to follow, but we should have rules for our groups as well, so they don't trample on individual human rights. As healthy human beings, we have rights and responsibilities of reciprocation, not only to God, but with our communities as well. So playing your part is a must. Honest living creates inner peace. Using others, or the system, is like making yourself a limited being who does not want to reach his or her potential. Reaching and living to our potential is a responsibility we all have, because not only as individuals, but as communities and as part of God, all our evolution depends on it. If the community is the right one, it will encourage it because it helps the community in the long run. No matter how you look at it, hindering individuals in reaching their potential for political reasons is against God's will.